Hi, welcome back to the podcast School of Love, where we really want to build parent child relationships where you can feel free to talk about anything on the planet, especially sexuality. And to be able to talk, the other side has to listen. And so that's why I invited Joni Makkonen to come to the podcast and help us to learn to be better listeners. And so my goal here was, how can I really work on giving my child the space at home with me where they can feel like they can talk about anything, and that I can really show that I'm an intrigued listener. I am a motivated listener. I love hearing about their lives, because if I don't offer that, I feel we'll miss out, first of all, on having a great relationship, and my child will find someone else who does it better. And so, yeah, Yoni has a lot to say about that, a lot of tips and things to keep in mind, especially, about the age of the person who is expressing themselves, as well as how can I listen well when I myself might be full to the brim with thoughts in my head. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode and find something for you to get even better at listening. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Joni Makkonen. So welcome to the School of Love podcast, Joni.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Amelia.
Nice to see you too. So Joni, whoever doesn't know Joni yet, he is a family and relationship counselor. You can see his logo in the background, right? They're called Das Relationship. So it's a cool play on words. And so he has been in this field for 10 years already. And his mission is for families and couples to lead their relationships through bonding and love instead of conflict. And Yoni has been married for almost 15 years and has 2 kids. So, wow, 15 years. Do there's an element for each kind of year? Do you know what that one is?
Oh, I checked it some time ago, but I
Yeah.
honestly forgot. I was like, I wonder what the element is. I wonder if it was ivory or something, but I'm not sure
Ah,
anymore.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably something cool, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm still a few levels below you. I think ours is maybe lead or something. Something, I don't know yet. I forgot. But I know some people I know who were at 13 or 14, they were like mother of pearl or something. So I'm
Cool.
sure
Yeah.
15 is a cool element.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yoni, what is your drive to be a family and relationship counselor?
Oh, that's a deep question right away. It's good. It's good. I like the question. You know, I think for me, it was little steps that led me in this direction. It wasn't like I woke up one day and was like, hey, I want to be a family and relationship counselor. Already, like after high school, basically, still wasn't really sure what to do. I'm very much into sports, so I even started studying sports science and was really interested in that too. But then I didn't really create a vision what I want to do with it, and didn't like the system that much, like the university courses and stuff. And then at one point, I talked to my sister, like, oh man, I really don't know what to do with my life. I don't really have a vision. And she actually was the one saying, hey, Yoni, you have such a good sense for people. You know a lot of people. You understand a lot of people. Why don't you work more with something around people? It was pretty broad.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, you're kind of right, And then I started researching, and yeah, then social work sounded interesting. So that was basically my bachelor's degree. Just like my basic training was a bachelor in social work. And then I started specializing, or obviously through internships during my studies, but then more and more I got interested in the field of family and relationships. Also, at the same time, I got married, I had kids when I was very young. So it was a relevant topic for me anyway. And we also had challenges quite early on in our relationship. So it just made sense. The tools that I learned about were very interesting to me professionally, but also then privately. So that's somehow how it happened. And then at my first job in crisis intervention with families, I realized, oh man, this is such an important field. There's so many people struggling a lot. And I know this is just probably the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure, there's even myself, I'm struggling too with topics. So I'm sure almost everyone has ups and downs in their family life. So I was like, man, this is way too important to not continue. And so I really got into it, and I got really obsessed with learning about it. And yeah, it was kind of just obviously also cognitively interesting to learn about, but then also trying to put things into practice. Obviously, I'm still learning. I still have my patterns. I still not always treating my wife 100% the way I want to, but that's part of the journey. But I became a little bit of a nerd in that direction to learn about families and relationships. Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful when you can work within your passion and like use what you learn right on the go? That's so awesome. And I can see how that can really keep you going and going and going.
And that also led to starting my own company almost 5 years ago now. That was the next step that just made sense because I met my colleague Janine, I met at our former job, and she had similar thoughts, similar ideas, and was also interested in creating something that's even more approachable for more people. So then we went for it, and since then, now it's anyway something full time that I'm trying to create, the vision that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And so, yeah, relevant, like you said. So many people are seeking help, or maybe not seeking help actively, but need it. Yeah, so I really give you props, kudos, heaven points, whatever you might call it. Yeah, I was really inspired to talk with you about becoming a good listener. And so, yeah, how I got to this thought, I've been reading some material here and there, and yeah, another family coach who I had on this podcast, she quoted Brene Brown, and this quote said, when someone feels seen, heard, and valued, then you build connection. And so this heard part kind of, I was like, okay, so how can we work on that? And also, someone rang our bell at home really randomly, and Jehovah's Witnesses were at the door. And yeah, they come because they feel heard at our house. I don't know if they feel that at every house. And I also asked them, they're always promoting the Bible, and I asked them, so how do you actively use, like, what's something that the Bible helped you with recently, and how did it really actively work in your life? And the lady said actually something, yeah, she said, becoming an active listener with my children, because we don't always see eye to eye. And I thought that is really true and valuable, and something that is worth working on. So yeah, I thought of you because I think you listen to a lot of people, right, in your work.
Pretty much doing that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, listening is pretty powerful overall. And when you were talking right now, I realized since the attachment theory and like very early childhood development is something that plays a big role in our job, I realized how deep this goes because as a baby, you don't even have language to communicate. Hey, I want to be seen. I want to be understood. I need you, mom. I need you, dad. And still, it's the most relevant time to feel seen and to feel heard as a baby. So it even starts before language starts. Language is so important in the area of feeling understood, but there's so many other ways to communication. So many needs that need to be seen and heard for babies before they can even talk. So that's where the connection starts. That's where our basic trust is even built in life in general. Before we can even speak, we want to feel seen and heard. And that's like the foundation is already basically done before we start talking. That's a crazy thought that I had while you were expressing the importance of feeling heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing tool. And yeah, I mean, the School of Love, our goal is really to help parents to become the go-to person for kids when, especially when they're challenged, sexual integrity or even in the future, other things, and it's a kind of the key point. If a child is confronted with pornography, the best thing is to go to the parents and for the parents to listen, right? And not judge, not, you know, of course, there might be some instructions of what to do afterwards, but like kids are confronted with this at a younger and younger age, and to just be there to listen, but have that foundation beforehand that the kid feels safe, this safe space for listening and having those kind of vulnerable conversations. Yeah. So now we kind of know why listening is so important. Do you have some how do you get into your zone for listening at work? Some basic steps, maybe? Do you have some tips for our audience?
Hmm. Yeah, first of all, it's such a great goal with School of Love. What a high standard of for a goal that you want to achieve that. I think one of the major things for becoming a good listener is to realize that you can listen and just hear, and your opinion and your viewpoint still can stay the same. Like, just because you're listening and giving someone space doesn't mean that you have to give up your standpoint on something. I think that's one of the most important keys, that even if you, for example, highly disagree with a behavior that your kid has, so many things. Our kids are very good at driving us nuts. They know how to push buttons. They often know how they can trigger us, right? So whatever it is, you don't need to necessarily change your set of values or your opinion what's good for your child to be able to be a good listener. So just to stay relaxed and focus on the needs and the emotions of your child first is much easier once you know that. Don't be afraid that just because you listen and you give your child room means you have to give up your standpoint. That's, as you already said, listening comes first. Just accepting and understanding and being empathetic for your child is first. Creating that safe space can come first. You always need a relationship first before some kind of form of education can work at all. If your child doesn't respect you because you don't give your child space and understanding, it won't want to learn from you anyway. So acceptance and understanding is always first. And it's possible to do both. You can just give space, just give understanding, ask questions, be the pupil before you be the teacher, right? And the next steps are important too, obviously. What to do after you listened well, but don't feel like it's a contradiction. You don't feel like you have to show your disagreement because otherwise the kid won't respect your viewpoint or whatever like that.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of, because I can imagine some people feeling kind of at unease when hearing something that just doesn't, they don't agree with, or maybe some values are clashing. But yeah, it's just that knowing, okay, this doesn't have to change anything, but I want to just give this person the respect and love of letting them express themselves. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good tip. Yeah. And it just makes me think sometimes of, I'm sure you've also experienced some people who don't give you much of a chance to get a word in. you know, luckily, I mean, I've experienced those people, and luckily it's not been like an emotional opening up or anything, but just maybe a neighbor or two who, you know, I share a little story, but then, oh yeah, and then they'll go on with their experience, which is, yeah, kind of the opposite of being a good listener, right? So maybe also, yeah, do you have some tips for that? Because like sometimes you might have a thought that you think maybe will be relevant to your speaker that's
Hmm.
speaking, but yeah, to just hold it back, I guess, or yeah,
Yeah, there's a couple of tips how to not be a good listener, and that's one of them, right? To steal the
yeah,
conversation. It happens easily that you make the conversation about you and your viewpoints. Um, I mean, the awareness is the first point. If you realize, oh, this often happens, that all of a sudden I'm talking much more than the person that wanted to share something with me. It's a first step to see that, just maybe to consciously in the beginning realize, okay, I want to give room, I want to ask questions. I want to also ask maybe if the person felt heard and felt understood. That's a way to get out of that too. Hey, is there
mm,
something else? You can ask questions like, is there something else that's important for you? Did I get it right? And then summarize it for the person. There's something else that I didn't really consider when you were sharing right now, or when I was summarizing what you were sharing. Um, did you feel understood by me right now? Those are things that can help to basically check in if it was about the person and their feelings, and maybe not about you and your response to the feelings.
that's great to get some uh, yeah, immediate feedback for the future, so we can really grow and improve. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
nice. I was kind of looking into listening when I got this idea. Have you heard of Simon Sinek?
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah,
There was a YouTube video somewhere I saw it, and there was a question like, name three role models for like in today's world for young people or something like that. And one of those three people was Simon Sinek. That was my comment under the video. I was like, Simon
I
Sinek,
think.
good guy, very good guy. I love him. Yeah, I think
Okay.
he has books too. I didn't read any of his books yet, but I follow him, and I've listened to a lot of content from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just found him recently, and I saw he had some things to say about listening, and um, yeah, I just really liked it. He was also quoting some other people, but um, yeah, some things he mentioned was we need, instead of peace talks, we need peace listens, where you don't go to talk about what you want for peace or negotiate your needs. But if you really want peace, you go there and you just listen to the other person. I thought that's so powerful. That's really what the world needs right now with all this conflict. Of course, there's so much pain, but if people really want to change, then I believe that could really move something. And
Mm.
yeah, I don't know if we're in the position to solve those wars, but at least I think we are in the position as parents to stop some family wars by giving this time for peace listens.
It's a good
Yeah.
one, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always say it's 51% is just listening in solving a
Mm.
problem. Like oftentimes you feel like, oh, you need a solution or whatever, but oftentimes if you do manage to listen well, no one, sometimes both parties don't even need or want a solution anymore.
Mm.
51% of the conflict is done. Most of it is done if you manage to listen well. Yeah.
So, like, yeah, everyone has different aged kids, unless they're twins. So you have to deal with listening to different age groups. And like you did mention babies, it already starts from day one. So how do you approach those different aged children, eventually adulthood? Would you have categories or just kind guidelines for young children. Yeah. What would you say about that?
Yeah, very interesting question. So we, in our coachings, we deal with very many different families and also children. And one of the most important things I think regarding age groups is the younger the child, the more the emotional development is much more in the center, right? So the cognitive development of our children, more or less, I mean, obviously it starts from the beginning, but it gets more important in, let's say, puberty. Before that, as humans, we're already emotional beings for sure anyway, but the younger the children, the more emotions just play the biggest role. So like something very small, let's say objectively small for an adult, can be the biggest, most devastating thing for a little child, right? Can be anything, you know, like a missing toy can be like, oh my God, my worldview is being challenged right now. Why is my toy not with me right now, for example, you know? So the smaller the children, the more it is important to help them to co-regulate or let's say regulate their feelings, you know, help them deal with the feelings and give the feelings behind things much more room. So one of the biggest mistakes that parents do with little children is rationalizing their problems. Oh, this is because you're tired right now, or this is because, you know, you didn't do this and that. You know, it doesn't matter. For a child, it doesn't matter. You know, for children, their emotions matter the most. It doesn't mean that emotions don't matter anymore later on, but in relation to, you know, cognitive issues, the that means on the level of what can you do concretely, you know, it's like to swing with the emotions much more intensely the smaller the kids are, you know, like the terrible twos, you know, or tantrums when kids have little kids have big tantrums, you know. Main thing is to really feel with them, you know. It's like, oh my God, yeah, this must be so hard to deal with right now. You're so mad right now, I see that, you know. Just like there was an American guy, I forgot his name, who made a comparison between toddlers and Neanderthals. He was like, he was saying their brain is developed like a Neanderthal. So you have to really like they're cagemen who just have their needs, and their needs are important right now. You know? So swing with them. You know, if they throw themselves on the floor, you know, go down on their level and be like, oh yeah, this must be so hard right now. You know, and just feel their feelings with them. You know, give them questions that they can answer with, yes, that's how I feel. Yes, exactly, that sucks. Yeah, yes, exactly, that's why mom is being stupid right now. You know, those are the, if they feel like, yes, you understand, you give them words for what they feel and you swing with their emotions, that's the best way to go with it. And the older children get, the more they have words for their, best case, the more they have words for their feelings, and the more you can start, you know, paraphrasing what they've been saying, and you know, still listening, still mirroring, but it's easier to ask them what they wish, what they want, what they need. You know, ask them more questions. Add in, you know, rational thoughts as well. You know? And with little children, don't think about the logics, or you know, don't think about if it's accurate what we're mad about. You know, the older children get, the more you can also approach, you know, their rational side and be like, hey, let's find a compromise. Let's find a solution for this. What do you want? Let's figure this out together. So I think that's the main thing. Yeah, just keep in mind, the younger the children are, the more they're just pure emotions, and the more it's important to just be empathetic and understanding for that real feeling that's a big deal for them. Doesn't mean that you should never give them any rules or give them any boundaries. Boundaries are still important, you know? But that's the thing. Stay in the kids' team. You can still be like, hey, I totally feel that. You know, just be very empathetic and be like, and still this is important right now. And still, sorry, we still can't go out yet now anymore. It's still important to have some boundaries, of course. Doesn't mean that children should do what they want.
Yeah, like what you said in the beginning, like, because I also have our clear rules, which I feel are just such great guidelines once the kids get into the routine, like no sweets in the morning or something like that.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, like you can still listen, like you said, listen to the tantrum, but you don't need to feel like, oh, I have to maybe change the rule one time. We don't need to change our opinion or our standard or whatever. We just need to feel with them. That's a great point. And I feel like a lot of us kind of, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's well meant to stop the kids from crying, but then, we will change the standard. It's like, okay, just this once, I'll give you the sweet in the morning. Um, yeah, what happens when that happens? Like, I don't know. Would you say, like, is that really listening to the child, or like, are there some repercussions if you bring your standard down?
Yeah, it's not good for sure because what do they learn? They actually learn how to manipulate your parents to get what they want, right? And that's not how life works. And so the same thing with how important emotions are in the beginning. The younger the kids, the more rules and boundaries are important. The smaller the kids are, because rules and boundaries give security. They give you, like orientation, and they can work. Normally, kids can work with rules very well. They like rules. They like orientation mostly, especially if they make sense, especially if parents are clear about them and don't change them all the time. And of course, children like to test them out and maybe try to push a little bit. But children are also smart and also energy conserving. They know if they throw a fit about the same thing 5 times, the sixth time they're not going to throw a fit anymore if the parents stay consistent with their rule. It's because it doesn't help them. It doesn't change anything. So they're going to learn to stick to the rule. So yeah, rules definitely make a lot of sense. And if you don't do that in the beginning, it can, yeah, like bigger children who don't know how to follow rules or just are not used to following rules, that creates even much bigger problems. So the repercussions are big, especially if you're doing that for a few years up to puberty. It can get harder than it already gets anyway in puberty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. So, yeah, it's really great to just start having this, going through these steps of empathy and, yeah, but keeping your safe space of opinion or rules or whatever, um, already at a young age.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just thought of, yeah, today, um, one of my kids was really upset. And it wasn't a situation where you can just solve it. It was just um, like those kids are playing and they're not playing what I want to play. And I'm just super disappointed. And he was bawling um, and, tears dripping down his neck. But, I can't force the other kids to play what he wants to play. And
Mm.
so it was actually a really great experience. Of course, it was sad to see him crying, but just to be there for him when he was so upset and be there to just accept him in that state and him just feeling open to do it, because not like feeling he needs to hide it from me or cry alone. And I mean, I don't know if this sounds dramatic, but if he were to, go through some super tragedy, like if he were to, I don't know, lose someone in his life in the future, then I would want him to do the same, feel that same connection with me, that he can bawl in front of me and I can just be there to hold his hand or pat his back or whatever. I would love that. And I think for me, I don't know who there aren't so many people that I would feel comfortable doing that with. like really letting out all my emotions, all my tears and snot down my face, you know. Yeah, because I don't know if we just feel that safe space to always be vulnerable. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because I feel like yeah, this is just like these small things that happen in childhood are just kind of baby steps to those future times.
Definitely. I mean, it's a very good sign that your son can show his emotions in front of you because he feels safe to show his worst sides, if you want to call it even that way. And it's a very good sign if children show their emotions in front of us. You know, they want us to be there for them, and they also trust us that we're not gonna use that against them at a different point. So definitely. And what I also like to say is just try to be on the same team, even if it's a rule that you spoke about or that you set in place. You can still take your child and have your child sit on your lap and be like, "Ah, yeah, this really sucks that I made this rule, right? Let's like, how can we, man? I feel so bad for you that you feel so many emotions about it right now. How can we deal with it together? You know, like be on your child's team, even if it's about. Don't take it personally if it's your rule and your kid is rebelling about your rule. You can still be like, how can we? I want to be there for you and listen to you, and how can we go through your emotion together to overcome it without me having to change the rule?
Yeah, I like that because like yeah, also if you are really aiming towards a healthy marriage, right? Like, we want to support our kids to keep up their purity, and I think something that was missing in my life growing up was the safe space with my parents to talk about crushes. And so I was encouraging my kids, yeah, if you feel something like that, talk about it with someone you trust. I hope it's us parents, but also a trusted older sister or brother, if,
Mm,
yeah, for my sons. But yeah, because it just, I think it's just so good to not ignore those feelings and to just get it out with someone that you really trust. And sometimes that I think that can just help to move on and maybe
definitely.
eventually see a different perspective.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I never thought about it that way, also regarding specific topics like that. Even like, because some topics your child probably won't come to you proactively. So if you already say like, hey, there's this thing, you might get a crush on someone, and just to let you know, there's an open door, you know, to talk about it. That's good. That's definitely good. And also, what ties into that is the older our children get, maybe even all the way to 18, 19, 20, your children are smart enough that they know they will be able to survive without you at one point in their life. So you can't lock them into a cage. Also, regarding your own values, own set of your values, your children will at one point decide for themselves what they want to do, what they want to believe in, what path they want to go. Obviously, you want to guide them, you want to be there for them, but the older your children get, the more it's also important to learn to negotiate with your children. You know, the older the children, the less you can just enforce certain rules. You know, obviously, a 3-year-old or a 6-year-old, what can they do besides throwing a fit if you have a rule? They're not gonna. They need your food, they need your house, they need everything. But once your child is 14, 15, they know you. I could survive without my mom's food for a week. I could, I don't, you know, I could do, I'm not like that dependent, you know. Um, I know I still live here, but, you know, I could live with my friends if my parents really hate me. You know, you know, at one point, you're not like, your life doesn't depend on your parents anymore. So that's the point where it's important to start negotiating, start to understand it's like having your child participate in decision making, also about you know, maybe you have certain ideas and rules for the teenager years, but to completely ignore the ideas of the child, it's not going to work. It's more of a cooperation. The older the children, the more it's of a cooperation and a negotiation. You still have the last say as parents because you're responsible, at least until they're a certain age. But it's important to, again, listen and have them have a say in decision making at least a little bit. Listen to them and maybe also adapt a few things, find some compromises about certain rules or how to handle certain things. Like the top bottom hierarchy thing, it's not going to work that well if you're too extreme about it in the teenager years. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that it's not a smooth, easy path. It's quite a tricky one with lots of stones and roots that you have to kind of calculate into. So, yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how do we do that? Because, yeah, my husband and I, we realize we want to include our kids in the decision and let them have a say. But in the end, we want them to know we will also make the decision. Yeah, of course, regarding certain things. But yeah, I don't know. Now I'm just thinking maybe to give them more power with the small decisions or medium level and the big decisions, then we include them, but it's kind of just more of a either a team decision or yeah, something like that. Like we were trying to decide on our family vacation. That was one topic. And it wasn't easy to get everyone's wishes aligned. And yeah, like one child wanted to just go to a new country and one wanted to yeah, my husband really wanted to be by the ocean. And so it was like all these different things, and it shouldn't be too expensive at the same time. So, yeah, so in the end, of course, my husband and I had to decide, and we just like we do want their feedback, and we want to make them happy, but it's not an easy deal to tick all the boxes.
For sure, definitely. I mean, decision making, yeah, it gets a little bit more complex the older the children get, because you don't have to ask your 3-year-old where do you want to go on vacation. That's the whole point. But yeah, I think that what you said is a good point. To include things where their opinions matter, where they can have a say in things. It's a very wise idea because they feel respected and honored also in their wisdom. They also have a little bit of life wisdom or their personality, what they need, what they want. So that's definitely good. And at the end of the day, yeah, you are responsible, but if you are too much of a dictator, then that will backfire. It's not gonna,
Mm.
like, whatever you want. I think everyone knows at least one family where it backfired, where there was super strict parents and who try to control everything, and then obviously the relationship suffers, and then you're not a role model for your child anymore, and then children tend to do the opposite. So it's very much about finding a good balance in that regard. But participation grows the older the children are. It's important for their development too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, our job as they get older is to give them those guidelines, but it's not our job to enforce them anymore at
Yeah.
a certain point, because that's their choice. And yeah, I do think that listening can be a strong tool also in this aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you ask your kid to express their views on why they want to do something or why they feel a certain decision is so important and give them the space to listen, then it's again such a great tool, isn't it? Just like,
Definitely.
yeah, like these peace listens, the potential
For
of
sure.
those.
Definitely. Very, very much so. I mean, even to take the time, if we stick to the vacation example, to hear everyone out, you need that, right? Even if you're the one having the final call on a decision, if you want to make a decision that everyone kind of is okay with. It's important to know what everyone wants. Yeah, it's a pretty simple example, but
Mm.
it counts for other areas, I think, too.
Hmm. Yeah, this brings me to a question that I feel it ties into this a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so, what if someone doesn't want to talk? Like you want to listen, but they don't want to talk, or maybe for it could be many reasons why they don't want to talk, right? Maybe they don't feel they have that safe space,
Mhm.
or I don't know, maybe you know better. I'm sure you know better, like many people, and for what reasons they don't feel like opening up. Um, Also, maybe they're still processing. And also, I'm sure men and women are also different at being able to express themselves through words. So, what if I want to listen,
Mhm.
but my child isn't ready to talk? How can I still be a good listener to them?
Yeah, that's a very tough one. Yeah, that's definitely something that happens often. And obviously, most of the time, there is a history behind it. Some something that was already in the way. Maybe our child didn't feel like opening up was a good idea because I was scolded for it, or there was just an opinionated dad or mom behind it. So the first thing is to, I think, reflect on what could be in the way. Maybe what is the reason. If you can ask, and if you get at least an answer about that, that's great. So you have something
Mm,
to work with at least. Sometimes you don't even get an answer for that. So reflecting on what could be in the way on your end is a good idea, and then obviously pushing will only increase not wanting to talk. Just
mm,
making the offer, continuously expressing that you're there, they listen better than maybe before.
mm,
That's what you can do, and also just investing in the relationship can help. Because not wanting to share is also sometimes a sign for something else. Maybe for a sign for a lack of quality time, for example. Because you know who do you want to like to share with? Someone you like feel comfortable around, someone you spend time with, someone who's plays a part in your life. So um, sometimes you just can maybe focus on having a good time again and not turning in circles about this one particular problem. Just put it aside for a little bit. Just invest into the relationship, and then maybe it can come again naturally at a different time. Also, teenagers tend to pick their times when they want to share. Often we want to be like, hey, why don't you tell me about your day? And they're like, no, definitely not. No, leave me alone right now. So being receptive in the right moments is also a big thing with teenagers. Sometimes they want to talk to you at freaking random time, and then we're
mm.
maybe we don't have the headspace, but then it's important to switch the flip and be like, oh, right now my child
Yeah,
does want to share. Now I need to be on point with my listening and not mess it up.
yeah.
So that's also a key. Yeah. And there was one more thing I wanted to say. Maybe it will come back. Something I think about quality time. I forgot. Maybe it will come back.
So we put on our elf ears as soon as our teenager shows signs of talking. And maybe also, I don't know, also finding a setting. I mean, you said, of course, yeah, I guess they also have this feeling of when they want to share, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's interesting. Like, on just had a long car ride yesterday, and it just suddenly kind of provided an opportunity to talk and share with my kids. Uh, in the end, they were listening to me more, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any kind of tips in creating a setting, or or maybe if someone one of my children are ready to talk, yeah, like going on a walk, or I mean, it's
Mm.
probably quite character specific, but do you have any ways you do it that
Hmm.
help you?
Yeah, I mean, going on a walk or driving in the car is actually often a good idea because it's not such a forced setting. You don't have to look into each other's eyes too extremely. It's a good idea. I think that comes naturally. I like to, in generally speaking, to already just go on dates with my children. That doesn't always mean that we're gonna talk about something really significant, but just to have the habit to spend one-on-one time is actually also a thing. Because the other way around, if you never spend one-on-one time with your child and then all of a sudden you want to talk about something sensitive, it's also maybe already awkward because the one-on-one setting you're having with your child is only related to serious kind of conversation. So if you have, like, in general, dates one-on-one time with your child, it makes it much more natural to also talk about something here and there. So that's an important thing. I actually remembered what I wanted to say before.
Yes.
Sometimes it's also important to be fine if your child doesn't want to talk about something with you. I think that's a big thing too. Like, it's a great goal if you're the chosen person that, all the life challenges your child has, it wants to share with you. It's like, great. Bless you if that's the case. Oftentimes, it's not the case, not 100% at least, and that's okay. So, to understand that there's also a time where the peer group is more important for your child than you as a parent, be fine with that role sometimes. It's like, you can, as you mentioned in the beginning, you can encourage your child to maybe talk to someone else who's maybe more or less at least a good influence. So maybe someone slightly older or someone slightly more mature, that can also be a good idea. Or, don't be jealous of your partner, or if child XYZ likes to share a little bit more with mom or with dad. It's okay. You don't have to force to get to that same level at every stage of your child's life. It's sometimes not realistic. So don't give yourself more importance than you sometimes need. It's not about you, it's about your child wanting or being open to share. And if that's not always the case, then don't make it about you and being upset that your child doesn't want to listen to you right now. No.
For sure. And I mean, what you said earlier, I think that's a good point to just, focus more on, okay, like what's our relationship like now, and just focus on the quality time. Yeah, I mean, when we're listening, we should probably have no agenda, right? We're just there to just behold our child and their emotions that they're going through. Um, I don't know if you can relate it this way, but like often women, they just want to talk to their husband and not get advice. I don't know if that works in this relationship as well, but yeah, maybe it is the goal just to let the child talk, and if they want the advice, then you can offer it. Yeah, would you say that's kind of relevant?
Very much so. Of course, it's very wise to do that way. And also the goal. I want to be a good listener. I want my kid to report or share to me, and then I can listen and then maybe give some adult advice. Again, it's great if that happens, but I think the focus in general should be, how can I invest into a good relationship with my child? And listening is a great part. Having a heart-to-heart conversation. I mean, we all want that as parents, obviously, and hopefully our children want that too. But sometimes talking is also not the way to deepen your relationship with your child. And sometimes it needs other things first, some being silly together or whatever it is, for there to be a foundation for a conversation, Like, you don't want to have a deep conversation with a stranger, right? Or some people would feel very uncomfortable. So if in the eyes of your child, if you're a little bit of a stranger at the moment, at least in a certain phase, then maybe try to not be a stranger first and just be a friend or whatever it is for a moment until there's a foundation for talking. I think having a vulnerable conversation is some levels up. Sometimes we have the expectation to have that with our children, and maybe there's no foundation. So there's other small steps you can do before that. Just invest in the relationship. Just try to have a good relationship first.
Yeah, okay. Because I think so. One thing that I thought of for this podcast is that, yeah, like, I mean, I thought of the goal, like, I want to be, like, offer the best listening skills for my child, because yeah, I just want to do it out of all the people they know. I think it'd be so awesome if I can pretty much be the best, offer the best place to share. Of course, like you said, if they feel more comfortable with another parent, that's okay for me. And yeah, if they have a trusted big sister to share with or brother, that's also okay. But I just want to, yeah, be the best listener that I can be. And yeah, I mean, as of course, to just get them to share, yeah, that's not really the goal, but to just offer that, yeah, my sort of loving ears,
Mm,
but also the space, yeah, to let them open up. But yeah, I was just thinking maybe it's also, I don't know if you can say this as a goal, but to have that curiosity for my child, to intrigue this curiosity every day, to just like, oh, how does my child like to do this or that or be loved? Yeah, like you said, to have the good relationship.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very valuable for sure. Another thing that just came up in my head was I was thinking right now again that level of I wish my kid would share about vulnerable things with me. Are you a good role model to do that as well? Like sharing about something that is bothering you or that's on your heart. It's not easy. It also takes practice, and don't mistake your child for your own therapist or whatever. You shouldn't share every deep struggle of your life with your children and give them too much, on their shoulders, obviously. But another thing is, if you think your child struggles with something and there is a setting where you feel like there is a potential where maybe the kid could feel comfortable talking about it. How about you start sharing about that? Don't mistake that with stealing the conversation, but maybe you can share about how you struggled with something in that age as well. Maybe it's a topic, maybe it's obvious or whatever. You can, without expecting that your child follows you with sharing, you can share about certain vulnerable things that you are still going through or that you were going through, and show them, you're not perfect. You went through stuff. It's okay to have struggles, to have feelings. Um, you know, um, I used to have a crush. Even if you have a crush now, that's also a way to be a role model, to share about vulnerable things or difficult things appropriately, of course. Not everything is made for the ears of children, obviously, but I've had good experiences with that, where I could see that my children could respect it, that I shared that with them, and um, that didn't always lead to them also sharing. Sometimes it did, but I think children can honor that, and they can learn that it's okay to share about things that are going on in your mind, in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that we're also trying to live up to our own virtues and be vulnerable about our weak points. Yeah, we're not perfect, and um, we strive for these goals, but to be also open about yeah, how we're still growing and showing effort to our children that we're trying to grow better. I think they see
Mhm.
every little thing,
Yeah,
and maybe also copy some things too.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, don't, yeah, pretending to be certain way or perfect is a bad idea because your children know anyway. So, yeah, being open about your own journey in life, about struggles, that can be also quite helpful, definitely.
So yeah, I guess yeah, just because my goal was also to be this go-to person, right? Because I just imagined, like, what if my child, seeing my child in the setting of sharing with a friend, and then not necessarily a good influence, but just friends, a circle of friends, and then sharing with me, and yeah, which in which situation would they feel more loved and heard? And because I do know, yeah, of course, especially when you become preteen and teenager age, like, you want to be with your friends and so on. But yeah, where can you really experience love? And of course, your friends do really like you and more or less want the best of you for you, but they don't love you like your parents. And so I was just thinking, how can I really provide a setting where that love that I really have can also be expressed in just letting them share and just not judging, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you already gave lots of good tips for us all to grow in becoming great listeners. Um, yeah, and just some things to keep in mind along the way. Um, yeah. So thank you so much, Yoni. I don't know if there's any other last words you want to say before we wrap up.
I don't think so. Great topic. Thank you for the conversation. I think, yeah, I'm already knowing that there's people like you who want to learn about listening, who want to be better parents and better listeners for their children. People who listen to this maybe all the way until the end, and that's already great, man. Our children, at one day when they are, maybe they're not mature enough, some of your children at this point, and one day if they knew you did that, that you took your time to learn about listening, that, they're going to respect that. So I think always keep learning, always keep trying to work on yourself is something very honorable, and I think our children can respect that, and can have love for us for that, for sure. Yeah, that's what just came to my mind. I think it's great I'm so grateful for anyone who's putting any thought in this at all. Is already a big step. Even if we're not perfect, even tomorrow we're probably still gonna suck a little bit at listening the next time with our children. It's still gonna happen. But to, yeah, to be able to have the mindset to grow, be there for our children, to learn, to model learning and growing is a great thing, period, already. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I actually thought of one last question for you because I'm
Okay.
actually quite curious. Because yeah, your work is pretty much listening, right? A lot of course you also talk and counsel, but I think your ears are full of words through work, right? And just because I heard from another counselor that he had to do this somehow, yeah, like how do you then go home and listen more? Like how can we expand our capacity to listen, you know? Like if you yeah, I like my husband. I don't have to talk to so many people throughout the day at work, but my husband does. And then, for example, yeah, if you had a day at work where you were talking and listening to many people, but you want to go home and really have more uh, listening muscles ready for another workout, yeah, how do you expand your capacity?
I've learned to be more selfish in the last 3 to 5 years in a healthy way. I've learned to take care of myself more. Also in this job, as you said, it can be a taxing job. Mostly it's a very fulfilling job. I love my job, and most days I actually feel fine and I'm not like completely exhausted and feel like I'm out of energy or out of listening capacity. But obviously it can happen. And in those moments, I know how to also prioritize myself now and then, because I know I can only be there for I know I can only be there for my family if I'm there for myself too. So having me time, working out, cleaning when I feel like my space needs to be cleaned, or even having other hobbies, listening to certain things, watching certain sports, things like that that I know lead to my sanity, that help
Mm.
me just feel good, feel relaxed. That's something that's very necessary. Before, I used to be much more of a people pleaser too, where I was like, I didn't even know what I wanted. I didn't even know what I needed. I was just like there for everyone at my job. I was there at home, and I realized, it's taxing. I can't really keep up with that. So be there for yourself. Listen to yourself, basically.
Mm.
Listen to yourself. Know what you need to be there for others again. That's, very important. Easier than said than done, obviously. There's a reason why our job exists, why our coaching programs exist, because a lot of things, what probably the role of a good father could be, the role of a good husband could be. There's a lot great theories. You probably know what you should do, but it's not so easy. You have your patterns, and there's ways how to get out of there. There's ways how to break those patterns. But the relationship to yourself is a major part also in our coaching program, because you can't separate it from the relationship to your spouse, to your children.
Yes, hallelujah. That's awesome. Yeah. So listen to yourself so you can listen to others. That's great.
Exactly.
Thank you, Yoni. I really appreciate everything you shared. It was a
You're
really nice
welcome.
conversation.
Thank you too. Thank
Yeah.
you, Amelia, for the invitation. And yeah, it was nice talking to you. And I hope some of the things I said were a good contribution to the topic. And yeah, I always love talking about these things, learning about these things. And yeah, it's my daily thing anyway. So it wasn't too much of a stretch for me for today. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Then thank you so much, and we'll see you again sometime.
Anytime. Thank you, Amelia.